life's memoir. Who would have ever thought at 19 I'd take it that far? My life is like a movie without the caption. That mean, even in the next scene, I swear to God, you never know what happened. I started rapping, man, before I could talk. And I was running on beats before I knew how to walk. So the next time you see a body that's been lined in some chalk, just know that I was probably there and took it with an assault. So save the salt, I sprinkle pepper each and every letter. You hating?
All right. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the James Nolan podcast. We got a lot to talk about today, a lot going on. Mets are taking on the Yankees in approximately a half hour. So we're going to be talking about some Yankees and Mets topics. Juan Soto, scorching hot in spring training, already got 3 home runs in 4 games. Anthony Volpe, another guy who's surprising many fans in spring training so far. He's hitting 400 throughout 7 spring training games so far. Going to be talking about Volpe and the rotation as a whole because Marcus Stroman, Nestor Cortes, and Carlos Rodon all had very good spring training outings in their most recent outings, I should say. They've all struggled in their first outings, but recently in their most recent outing, they all had pretty good starts. So we're going to be talking some Yanks rotation as well. But to start off the show, we are talking New York Giants because Rich Eisein came out yesterday going all over. This rumor is making Giants fans go insane. Daniel Jones. Are the Giants done with Daniel Jones? Now, we all know that after this season, they can easily just cut him. They can cut bait with Daniel Jones, and they have not a lot of cap implications for 2025. We all know that. And recently, Russel Wilson was just released by the Denver Broncos, and if he wants to be a starter, then maybe it's with the New York Giants because let's be real, Daniel Jones isn't that good. He just isn't that good. Look at his numbers last year, even when he was on the field. He only had 2 passing touchdowns in 6 games. He threw 6 interceptions. It wasn't a good stretch of games for Daniel Jones, especially after getting over $160 million. Everyone wants Daniel Jones to be the guy, obviously, because he was drafted 6th overall. And speaking of 6th overall, the Giants do have the 6th overall pick. What are they going to do with that? Are they going to trade up for a guy like Jaden Daniels or Drake May? Or maybe they sit back and hopefully they get lucky. Or do they sit back and take a guy like Joe Alt who could protect a guy like Daniel Jones? Who knows? The Giants have a lot of options at what they could do. But most importantly, they have to figure out what are they going to do at quarterback. Do they want to bank on Daniel Jones like they did offseason ago when they handed him that 4-year, $160 million deal? Or are they going to say, you know what, this is a tryout year. If you do good, we'll keep you for the next 2. But you know what? If you suck, we're going to have this guy that we drafted to back you up and to eventually take over. Or do you go out there and you get a guy like Russell Wilson for a cheap deal because he's not going to be looking for a lot of money. He's going to be getting a lot of money from the Denver Broncos. They still owe him a lot of guaranteed money. So whoever does get Russell Wilson does have that advantage where they won't have to pay him a lot of money. And to be quite honest, Russell Wilson isn't as washed up as many think he is. He just threw 26 passing touchdowns, something Daniel Jones has never done in his entire career. The most touchdowns he's ever thrown was 25, and that was his rookie season. So Daniel Jones hasn't thrown over 20 passing touchdowns since his first year in the league. So yes, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is a better option right now than Daniel Jones, especially coming off a season where Daniel Jones suffered a torn ACL, his second injury in just 2 seasons. So yeah, I think Wilson might be a better option to get the Giants to the playoffs. If you want to make the playoffs, yeah, you go out there and you get Russell Wilson. And apparently, Tiki Barber said it on WFAN yesterday, Russell Wilson wants to be in New York. He does. A few off seasons ago, a lot of Giants fans wanted Russell Wilson to be in New York. And if Russell Wilson just has an ounce left of that former Super Bowl champion in him, then who knows? Who knows? I'm not saying he's going to win the Giants a Super Bowl, but I'm saying maybe he can get you to the playoffs. And if they want to get a quarterback on a cheap deal, because if they do draft a quarterback in the first round, ideally you don't want to throw him right into the fire. You have the luxury of taking a top quarterback and allowing him to sit by under Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson. So the Giants have a lot of options because ideally we've seen it. just across in the same stadium, Zach Wilson and the Jets, Sam Darnold and the Jets. The Jets always fumble the bag with quarterbacks that they take because why? They just throw them under the fire, behind a terrible offensive line with a lack of weapons. That's not the formula. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm not saying whoever they draft is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, but even Patrick Mahomes sat. Tom Brady sat. Aaron Rodgers sat. Jordan Love, who had a really good year in his first year as a starter with the Packers, he sat. Quarterbacks that sit, they actually do better. And the Giants have the luxury of being able to take a very good quarterback with either the 6th overall pick or trading up and allowing him to sit for either a full season, half a season, however long. But you want to sit your quarterback. I mean, Baker Mayfield. I mean, he had a great year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he has had few seasons. He had a few good seasons before this one before. It wasn't a fluke. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, and even he sat. So you want your quarterbacks to sit. Lamar Jackson, another guy, two-time MVP now. He sat. You want your quarterbacks to sit. You don't want to throw them under the fire. And the Giants have that luxury where they're able to do that. Now, are they going to do it with Daniel Jones, or are they going to bank on Russell Wilson? I think that they should bring in Jones, Wilson, and draft a guy. Because quite frankly, if Jones does get hurt, which is on the table, his injury history is lengthy. Let's be real. A lot of neck injuries, a torn ACL, that's not good. Russell Wilson is a guy who can take over early on and still keep you on a winning path, develop a young quarterback because he's 35 years old. He's not going to be there for 5 years. Maybe he gives you 1 or 2 good years, and then you bring in that quarterback that you did draft, and you do it the right way. Is it going to get you a Super Bowl next year? I don't know. I mean, maybe Russell Wilson does have something left in him. And now I'm not saying you have to go get Russell Wilson, but it's on the table. And you know what? Now that it's actually doable, now that he is a free agent and he could get a very cheap contract, a former Super Bowl winning quarterback could get a very cheap contract, former MVP caliber quarterback. And let's be real, guys. Just last year, 26 passing touchdowns, completed over 66% of his passes, threw only 8 interceptions, 26 to 8 interceptions. That's pretty good. Daniel Jones threw 6 interceptions and only threw 2 passing touchdowns just last year. So 2 less interceptions in half less games. Not very good. And then Jones, in his best year, he only threw 15 passing touchdowns. His best season, 15 passing touchdowns. 9-7 record. That's Daniel Jones' best year. We keep giving this guy opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and we say it year in and year out at the beginning of every year. Daniel Jones has to prove he's the guy this year. If not, he's going to have to go. We said that last year. We said that the year before, the year before, the year before. He hasn't proved he can be the guy, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of inconsistent play on the field. Daniel Jones hasn't done enough in his 5 seasons as the New York Giants starting quarterback to prove he can be the franchise guy. You have to have a backup option. And Russell Wilson might be the best backup option. And he still gives you that luxury where if Jones does go down with an injury early on in the year, whoever you do draft in the first round, if it is a quarterback, you can still let him learn. Now, do you have to have your veteran quarterback be so bought into developing that young guy? No, you don't. You saw it right with the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love benefited from sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to develop Zach Wilson, and no, it didn't work. Zach Wilson, we saw, he sucked. But Jordan Love sat behind Rodgers for 3 years, and Rodgers didn't show him any type of love or mentorship. He just said, you know what, you're my backup. And sometimes that's the best way to learn. So why don't the Giants go out there and get the best backup option available just in case Jones does go down and you can have that quarterback learn? Now, who are the options out there, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Drake May? It's not going to be – no, it's not. They're not getting Caleb Williams. He's not first. But the Giants should draft a quarterback. Rich Eisein, that rumor, even if it is untrue, it's out there now. It's out there. It's clear cut. A lot of people think it. A lot of people have been saying it. Daniel Jones doesn't have a lot of time left. And Rich Eisen, a very trustworthy reporter, a very trustworthy insider, he might be right. That rumor could very well be true. The Giants and Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, they didn't draft Daniel Jones. They have yet to draft their guy. We all know how much GMs want to draft their own guy. And the Giants have an opportunity. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have an opportunity to draft their own guy. I've said it before. Jaden Daniels, I think, makes the most sense. I think he's a great fit with Brian Daboll. He's got that physicality. He uses his legs. He's got a cannon of an arm. His touchdown to interception ratio just last year in LSU was fantastic. And we all know Daboll, what does he love? Don't turn the ball over, throw touchdowns, use your legs. That's what Jaden Daniels does. I think Jaden Daniels is a perfect fit in New York. But whether it's Jaden Daniels or somebody else, Daniel Jones is not the guy. And they need to draft a quarterback. And they need to go get a backup quarterback too. Because I love Tommy DeVito, and it was a fun story. But is Tommy DeVito a legitimate long-term backup? Who knows? Probably not. It would be awesome if he was. But I think his run as backup quarterback is coming to an end because the Giants and Joe Schoen, they did say just a few days ago, they intend on adding a quarterback. And I don't think they meant that through the draft necessarily. I think they also meant that as a backup option for Daniel Jones because he's coming off a torn ACL and his second injury in less than 3 seasons? So, yeah. And the Giants, a lot of stories are coming out with them now too because Saquon Barkley is also hitting free agency for the first time. They're not franchise tagging him like they did last year. And that's the right decision. That is the right decision. A lot of people are upset about it, and rightfully so. Saquon is a career Giant. He's arguably one of the best running backs in Giant history. I mean, he's right up there with Tiki Barber. Obviously, he didn't get that. I mean, Tiki Barber didn't get a ring either, but he's right up there. I mean, let's look at his numbers right now with the Giants. They were actually, I mean, just a season ago in 2022, he put up ridiculous numbers. But this year, he also put up ridiculous numbers. In 14 games, 962 rushing yards. And then also on top of that, receiving, he also did very well too. We all know he's a two-way back. He had, 280 receiving yards. So, yeah. And then last year, too, over 1,300 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. The guy still got it. Saquon Barkley, even though he's going into an age 27 season, and we all know running backs do die off as they get older, he's still got a little bit left in him. But he's just not a good fit with the Giants because the Giants aren't in a position where they need to pay a top running back. Is Saquon Barkley replaceable? Yes, he is. And that sounds crazy, but he is. Running backs are replaceable nowadays. And that's just a hard fact. That's why the running back market sucks. So Saquon, yeah, he's great and he is going to get paid. But it shouldn't be the Giants paying him. A team like the Houston Texans, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. We see it, all these rumors that Barkley might want to go to the Texans, and that does make sense. Why? Because they're not paying their quarterback. The Giants have a lot of money tied into Daniel Jones this year. They're potentially going to try to sign new guys. There's a couple good wide receivers out there that they could sign. There's offensive linemen that they do need. They want to add to that defense that is becoming something. Saquon Barkley, it doesn't make sense to pay him right now if you're the Giants. But teams like the Houston Texans, yeah, it does. And that's why that rumor's out there. Because CJ Stroud is on a rookie contract. And when you got a guy that gets you to the playoffs in his rookie year and you got him on a rookie contract, like CJ Stroud, who we're already talking about is a potential top 10 quarterback in the NFL, it makes sense to go out there and get a 27-year-old running back like Saquon Barkley, who could still rush for over 1,000 yards and give you 500-plus receiving yards. That makes sense when you're the Texans. But when you're the New York Giants, it does not make sense. It doesn't. And it sucks because Saquon Barkley is a beast, and he was a beast for the Giants since he was drafted. 2nd overall. You wanted him to be a Giant for life. But in reality, it's just not plausible. You cannot pay Saquon Barkley top running back money if you're Joe Schoen and the Giants. It just does not line up with the long-term and short-term plans. So it sucks. Saquon will probably go somewhere else, such as the Houston Texans. I think the Miami Dolphins are another great fit. I think the LA Rams are a great fit. Saquon has a lot of great fits, even the Dallas Cowboys, which would suck. But Saquon does not fit with the Giants anymore. They made the mistake of paying Daniel Jones and not Saquon Barkley. So that is on them. Yes, that is on them. If they didn't pay Daniel Jones, maybe they could afford to pay Saquon Barkley right now. But in reality, they're tied up to Jones for at least another season. And they have money tied into guys like Bobby Okereke, who's more important. Deonte Banks is going to be due for a contract in 3 years. And you're going to want to re-sign him because he's going to be a top cornerback soon. I mean, you just gave Dexter Lawrence a huge contract an offseason ago. There's more important things than Saquon Barkley that the Giants need. And they still need an offensive line. And if you're going to draft a kid in that first round, or even if it's Daniel Jones, you're going to need an offensive line. And you need money to build it. And giving Saquon Barkley would take away money for that. So, sorry, Giants fans that love Saquon. He ain't coming back. It sucks, but it's just the hard truth. All right. Let's talk about these Knicks, man. It sucks. OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and then Jalen Brunson scaring the shit out of all of us. Jalen Brunson hit Isaiah Hartenstein's knee, and I think that's what probably caused it. He goes down. At first, we thought it was a non-contact injury, but in reality, it was probably a contact injury. He's just got a bruise. He's questionable for tonight, which is great. I mean, it's not great. I mean, obviously, we'd want Brunson to play, but it's great in the sense that we thought Brunson might have been done for the year. And if he was done for the year, the Knicks would have been done for the year. And when the Knicks are at full strength, they might be the second best team in the East, and we're going to be talking about that soon. But right now, they're the fourth best team in the East. 36-24. They need to do something. Now, Shake Milton coming in. Hopefully he can solve and take a little bit of pressure off Jalen Brunson because Jalen Brunson is doing so much work. He's dribbling the ball so much. I will say that. I am not a fan of Jalen Brunson dribbling the hell out of the ball right now, but at the same time, what else is he able to do? Who's his other options? I mean, Dante DiVincenzo the other night shot like 3 of 11 from the three-point field. He's great. I love DiVincenzo. He's been great all year. But the other night when Brunson was dribbling the hell out of the ball, DiVincenzo wasn't knocking down his threes or any shots. I mean, his second best option right now is DiVincenzo and Josh Hart. You take Brunson off this team, I mean, they did slide by the Cavs. I'll admit that. But you take Brunson off this team right now, the Knicks are nothing. The Knicks are nothing. They have no real offensive weapon right now outside of Jalen Brunson. And that is a problem. And the trade deadline obviously passed a long time ago, and the best option that they have is picking up a guy like Shake Milton. Hopefully he can provide a little bit of a spark, but I'm not expecting too much. I mean, luckily, the Hawks, they're not what they were, obviously, in 2020. So I think the Knicks can get by them with or without Brunson tonight. So that's a plus. But the Knicks do need their guys back badly. So I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to be talking about why they need Randle and Anunoby and why when they get them back, they might be the second best team in the East. And they could go right up against the Boston Celtics. But they need OG Anunoby and Julius Randle. So we'll take a quick break and we'll pop right back into it.
But the Jets need a backup quarterback in 2024. Gardner Minshew will be available. Gardner Minshew is the guy that they should get. Gardner Minshew actually almost got the Colts into the playoffs. Yes, he had a little debacle at the end of the year, but it's not all on him. One, he's 27 years old, so he can move around a little bit. He's not going to be like a Tim Boyle or a Trevor Siemian, a guy who's going to be just standing there. And also, he had a 62.2 completion percentage, 3,300 yards in 2023, 15 passing touchdowns, and how many interceptions? Let's see.
All right, the Jets, I mean, they need to go out there and get a backup, and a lot of New York teams need backups for stuff like this because injuries happen. Right now, the Knicks are full strength. Like I said, they could be the second best team in the East because Julius Randle, as much as a lot of Knicks fans used to hate him, including myself, even in the playoffs last year, you want to throw a brick at Julius Randle. You want to rip his poster down in MSG, right? But in reality, Julius Randle is what a star is in New York. It's a polarizing figure, and in reality, he's a two-time All-NBA guy in, 5 seasons with New York? Probably would have been his third All-NBA season this year if he didn't get hurt with a dislocated shoulder. But the Knicks need him badly, and the Knicks also need OG Anunoby. I think if they get one of those two guys back, they could still be the second-best team in the East right now. But in reality, they don't, and they need Jalen Brunson badly. I think they got to rest him tonight. I don't think they need to rush him back. Even though I'm going to this game tonight, I don't want to see Jalen Brunson on the floor tonight. Don't risk anything more. Because if he gets hurt, if he goes down with anything that could put him out for even a week, we don't want to get knocked down. We want to stay top 4. Because we want to stay ahead of the 76ers. Because if we do face the Sixers in the first round of the playoffs at 4 versus 5, we want that home court advantage. I talked about it on the pod a few weeks back. We want home court advantage in the first round. Because we can, at full strength, this Knicks team, like I said, they're the second best team in the East. But we need that home court advantage in the first round, no matter who we play. And beating the Cavs, that was huge. Because right now, they're the second best team in the East on paper. In the standings, it says it. Cavaliers, second best team in the East. Well, now they're third. Actually, 39-21. They slipped to 3. So that's huge. We're right behind them, right on their tail. But we need to get to number 2. Because if we can get to number 2 and we can play the 7th seed, that could line the Knicks up to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And at full strength against the Boston Celtics, when it's Randle, Anunoby, and Brunson, I think that is the team in the East that has a legitimate shot at knocking off the Celtics. Because at full strength, when they're able to put those guys on the bench, when they're able to have that bench at full strength, Josh Hart, because he's not a starter. Let's be real. Josh Hart needs to come off the bench. Isaiah Hartenstein, obviously, would want him in the second unit because Mitchell Robinson is not so much better, but we all know how great Mitch is. But Hartenstein, even in that starting lineup with Randle, with DiVincenzo, with Anunoby, with Brunson, that's a lethal starting 5. That's a really good starting 5. That's the second best starting 5 in the East. And the Knicks, they arguably have the best bench in the East. I mean, Bogdanovich, that was a huge pickup. Huge pickup. Precious Achiuwa, he's doing better than we all expected right now. Josh Hart, we all know he's great off the bench. So the Knicks, they have a deep team when they're at full strength. But they need to tread water right now, and they need to get one of those 2 guys back to get to that 2 seed. Just one of those 2. They need help. They need help badly. It's going to be exciting tonight. They got the Hawks tonight. They should be able to overcome them 26-34 this year. They're 10th in the East. The Hawks absolutely suck this year. But the Knicks, they got the Magic, they got the Sixers, and then they got the Sixers again back to back. Then they got the Blazers, Kings, and then the Warriors again next Monday. So they're lucky right now. They got a little bit of an ease in this schedule. But after they play the Warriors on the 18th, they're ramping up again. They got to play the Denver Nuggets. But after they get the Nuggets, right back down. So in reality, when you look at the rest of this month of March, the Knicks have like one team on the schedule that I'm worried about, and that's the Nuggets. Because the Knicks should realistically win every single game except March 21st against the Denver Nuggets. So luckily, they do have a soft schedule. And that's why I think they need to ease up on Jalen Brunson's playing time. Don't even play him tonight. Let him rest. Get him stronger. Rest him up. And once we get these guys back, hopefully around April, when the schedule starts to ramp up again, we got the Heat on the schedule in April. We got the Kings who are actually playing pretty well. You got the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously, second best team in the East. They just passed the Cavs. And then we also got the Celtics on the schedule. And we got a tough April. So this March, when we're not healthy, we got lucky. We got an easy schedule, and we need to take advantage of that. But come April, we need one of those two guys back. Because the Knicks, if they get that 2 seed, they have a clear path to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. And they're that one team. Even I think they're a better matchup against the Celtics than the Bucks. I'll say that right now. The Knicks are that good when they're at full strength. So hopefully they can get them back. So let's talk some baseball. Mets, Yankees, spring training starts in about 5 minutes. Tyler McGill, is he going to get that final rotation spot in that Mets rotation? We're going to be talking about that in just a bit. We're going to start off with the Yankees, though. Juan Soto on fire. Juan Soto's on fire. He's got 3 home runs in 4 games already, and I think that's exactly what everybody's expecting. Soto's a guy who's going to stay on the field every single game. He's not going to get hurt. Played 162 games last year with the Padres. He's going to give you 30-plus home runs, and he's going to tear the cover off the ball. And that's what he's doing in spring training. I mean, it's no surprise there. So Juan Soto, he's doing what Juan Soto does. That's all I'll say there. I think the real exciting story out of Yankees spring training so far is Anthony Volpe. Because Anthony Volpe is a guy, if he takes that step forward, that's another guy in that lineup that's a dangerous threat to come up to the plate for opposing pitchers. I mean, he hit 20-plus home runs in his rookie season as a shortstop. That's hard to do. Hit 20-plus home runs in your rookie year and as a shortstop, as a Yankee shortstop. That's really good. So props to Volpe there. That batting average does need to come up, but his batting average in spring training, I know it's spring training, and I'm not going to get too over dramatic here, but Volpe is showing great signs so far in spring training. 400 batting average across the 7 games. Obviously, Gold Glove defender at shortstop for the Yanks over there. So if Volpe can take that step forward, batting average rise, if he can get on base more, so he can steal more bases, because we know he's a threat on the base pass. He had over 20 stolen bases last year. So we know he can be a 30-30 guy. But to be a 30-30 guy, he needs to get that on-base percentage and that batting average up. He does that, that's another guy in that lineup that's going to be a cog. He's a beast. He has the potential to be a beast this year. So he's going to have a lot of protection. He's going to be seeing a lot of good pitches considering the guys in the lineup. So Volpe has a chance to really take a step forward this year. And if he does, he could be an all-star. And he could cement himself as the shortstop of the Yankees for a long time. So we'll see what Volpe can do. I like what I'm seeing out of spring training so far. Is he in the Yankees lineup? Let's see. Yeah, he's leading off today against the Mets. So he's leading off today against the Mets. You got Trent Grisham, Juan Soto, and Judge both not in the lineup. So Volpe's got to carry the load in this spring training game. And he has been carrying the load so far. 400 batting average in those 7 spring training games. Obviously, like I said, spring training, don't want to get too over dramatic here. But he's showing good signs. This spring training is a chance for young guys to show you what they can do, get excited, get ready for the season. And if he can carry this success over to the regular season, Volpe's going to have a very good year because we already know he's got the pop. We already know he's got the power. He's got the speed to get all those stolen bases, but he's got to get on the base path. He's got to get on base. He gets on base. He could be the full-time leadoff hitter for the Yankees, and that'd be huge. A guy with that speed at the top of the order, hitting in front of Judge and Soto, even Rizzo and Stanton, giving those guys an opportunity to get sac flies and stuff like that. That's what you want. So if Volpe can take that step forward, the Yankees have their leadoff hitter for the whole entire year of 2024. So keep it up, Volpe. Keep it up. That's all I'll say there. Another story out of Yankee spring training is the 3 guys in the rotation that you're really banking on to have a good year. Because if they have a good year, this Yankees rotation on paper looks great. Garrett Cole, we all know, is a Cy Young candidate, just coming off a Cy Young year. But Marcus Stroman, Nestor Cortes, and Rodon in their last starts for spring training all had pretty good starts. We'll start with Stroman. Stroman's a guy, I said him before, he's gonna eat up a lot of innings for you. He's not going to be great, but he's not going to be terrible. So what he did in spring training in his last start, it's a good sign. 4 innings, only 2 hits allowed, no runs. That's good. That's really good. I think pitching is what you look more at in spring training than hitting, because hitting, obviously, you're just warming up, getting to the plate, getting your timing down. But pitching is what you want to see. Nestor Cortes, another guy coming off an injury last year, who we want to see get back to form. In 2022, he's one of the best pitchers in the American League. He's right up there with Garrett Cole as the top pitcher in the Yanks. So if Cortes and Stroman, well, Stroman, he's not going to be a top pitcher. But Cortes, if he gets back to his 2022 form, that's huge for the Yankees. Even if they don't get Blake Snell, having Cortes as that left-hander with another left-hander, we're going to be talking about a pretty good start in his last start. Cortes does good. Yankees are going to have a very, very good year. Carlos Rodon, another left-hander in this rotation that you're going to hopefully expect big things out of. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball for a 2-year period from 2021 to 2022. First year with the Yanks, he sucked. But then again, he missed all of spring training. He missed all the first half of the year with an injury. So he didn't have that ramp up. He didn't have that warm up to the year. So far in spring training, he's looked great. 5 strikeouts and less than 3 innings of work in his first spring training start. So when he steps up to the bump in a few games, we're going to be looking at him again. But Rodon, you like what you saw out of his first start. He came back in spring training in much better shape than he was last year when he came back in the second half of the year. So hopefully having a spring training, having a healthy start to the season can get Rodon back on the path, back on the things that, the Yankees and Brian Cashman, they gave him $160 million, not for just any simple, like, hey, we'll give you $160 million because you had 2 good years. No, they saw something in him. A lot of people saw Rodon start to take that next step. 2021 to 2022, Rodon was one of the best pitchers in baseball. And the Yankees gave that guy, they gave one of the best pitchers in baseball $160 million. So is he going to have a year like he did last year? No. I think Rodon does bounce back this year, and I think he's that second ace in the Yankees rotation. Is he going to be Garrett Cole's Cy Young candidate? No, but he's going to be that second ace. He's going to give you 160-plus innings, I think, and I think he's going to give you a sub-3 ERA. So hopefully that's what the Yankees get out of Rodon, and maybe even Nestor Cortes too. 2 great lefties in that rotation. That would be huge. And then Stroman being an innings eater, and then obviously Garrett Cole be that Cy Young candidate. And if they get Blake Snell, that'd be great because he's still available. But let's talk about these Mets, and then let's get on the road to the Garden. All right, Pete Alonso contract rumors. He's going to get a contract. He's going to have a great year. He's going to get a contract at the end of the year. He even said it. He's open to contract discussions during the season too. So we'll see what happens there. But I think Pete Alonso is due for a big year, not just because it's a contract year, but because he came into spring training in great shape. He's hitting the ball pretty well. He's already got 2 home runs in spring training. I want to see a little bit more out of Alonso, obviously. I don't think he has a hit in his last 2 or 3 games in spring training. But in his first few games in spring training, he was tearing the cover off the ball, and he looks locked in. He's saying the right things. He was working hard all off season. So I'm excited to see what Alonso can do in 2024. I think he's going to have his best season yet. I mean, every single year, he basically hits 40-plus home runs every year. The lowest home runs he ever hit in a full year was 37. He's a walking 100 RBI guy, 110 RBI guy. So Pete Alonso, he's going to get that contract at the end of the year from Steve Cohen and the New York Mets, and I think he's going to have his best season of his career this year. Jeff McNeil is getting reevaluated, and I think this is a little bit of a story because I think we're kind of taking it a little too lightly. He's coming off, a torn UCL? That's a kind of decent deal. So if he does start the season on the IL, I think that's on the table. Who's his replacement? Is it Jet Williams? Is it Luis Angel Acuna? Is it one of these top prospects that has the middle infield experience? I would love to. Now, listen, I'm not here to say I would love to see Jeff McNeil start the year on the injured list. I don't want to see that happen because I do think Jeff McNeil still has that NL batting champion in him. I think last year he sucked. But in the second half of last year, he started to get back to Jeff McNeil form. But if he starts the year on the injured list, I don't want to roll out there. Who was the option that I saw? Let's see. What was the option that I saw? I want to see one of the prospects get a chance. We're going to be full on young. Let's let one of these prospects like Luis Angel or Acuna or Chet Williams get a chance. That's all I'll say there. But the Mets have an interesting lineup. I do want to talk about this game before I talk about the guys that could take that final rotation spot. But the Mets, they do have an interesting lineup, and I think this Mets lineup is going to be the everyday Mets lineup. Nimmo leading off, that's a given. Marte batting second. If he can be Marte of 2022, that's great for the Mets. Lindor and Alonso 3 and 4. I think that's great. But number 5, Francisco Alvarez, that's what I love. And I also love to see Beatty and Vientos in the lineup at the same time. Because guess what? I would love to see JD Martinez in that lineup, or a guy like Jorge Soler, somebody like that. But obviously they didn't sign those guys. So we're rolling with the young kids. And if we're rolling with the young kids, I want to see them in the lineup. So Beatty and Vientos, if they're going to get the shot, by all means, let's do it. I'm locked in. I'm rolling with it. I don't love it, but I have to love it. So Vientos and Beatty, let's see what you guys can do. But the top 5 in the Mets order, I think that's intriguing. If those 5 guys can be at their best, and I think Lindor and I think Alonso and I think Nimmo, I think those are 3 guys that you can expect to do very well. I think that's a pretty good top 5, especially Francisco Alvarez, like Anthony Volpe. He needs to take that step forward. He had a great year power-wise last year, but the batting average and the on-base percentage, it needs to go up. Needs to draw more walks, needs to strike out less, and needs to hit more. That's just clear. Francisco Alvarez does that. That top 5 is dangerous. You got Lindor, Alonso, and Alvarez, who could potentially hit 30-plus home runs for you. That's a great 3, 4, 5. And Nimmo, we all know he's an on-base machine. Everybody wants to see him hit for power all of a sudden. I don't know why. I think Nimmo is a great leadoff hitter. Who else are we going to throw in there? Jeff McNeil with the torn UCL? No, I don't want McNeil at the top of the order. He's not a leadoff hitter. Brandon Nimmo is a leadoff hitter. Keep him in the leadoff spot. If he hits 20-plus home runs, that's just a plus at the leadoff spot. He's a guy who gets on base, 350 on base percentage year in and year out. Nimmo needs to stay at the top of the order. Don't put him in the middle of the lineup. The middle of the lineup is for Lindor, Alonso, and Alvarez. That's it. Those 3 guys, they can give you 30-plus home runs. Alonso obviously can give you 40-plus, but Lindor and Alvarez, they can give you 30-plus home runs right there. We don't need to have Nimmo try to hit 30-plus home runs this year. We don't. We need him to be what he is, one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. That's what he is. Is he the best? No. Is he one of the best? Yes. So why change that? Why change that? When we won 100 games in 2022, who was the leadoff hitter for over 150 games? Brandon Nimmo. Why would we change that? So Jeff McNeil, yeah, is he a guy who won the NL batting title? And when you think of a leadoff guy, you want a guy that hits a lot, right? Yeah, Jeff McNeil does hit a lot. But what does Brandon Nimmo do well? A lot of the little things that Brandon Nimmo does well, I guess a lot of Mets fans don't see. Not just getting on base. Not just having that high on base percentage. No, it's seeing like 10-plus pitches in that bat. It's working the count, fouling off all the pitches, making the pitcher work at the start of the game, allowing the guys behind you to see the whole entire arsenal from the pitcher before he's even done with the first batter. That's what Nimmo does well. So I would love to keep Nimmo at the top of the lineup. And that happens if Lindor, Alonso, and Alvarez, if they can hit for power, then Nimmo can stay at the top of the order. Simple. And then it's going to be interesting to see what Beatty and Vientos do, because I think they could easily be on short leashes, and we could see a guy like Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna. We could see one of those guys get called up very quickly. But at the same time, Beatty and Vientos, they got a chance to prove themselves. They really do. For some reason in me and deep down inside, I really thought the Mets were going to go out there and get an actual DH. But it looks like we are rolling with Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos at third and DH. So it's going to be fun to see those guys get the actual shot. Because last year, Buck Showalter, I'm not sure if he wanted to or it was the other guys up in the office like Billy Epler playing the analytics saying, no, it's Vogelback who we want. But these guys are going to get a chance every single day, it looks like. So they're going to get those consistent at-bats that Mets fans wanted to see them get last year. So they get that opportunity. We'll see what happens. But the top 5, I do like. The top 5, I really do like. Now let's talk about the pitching. Cortes Senga, I haven't talked about it yet. It sucks. He's going to be starting the season on the injured list, so we're going to need someone to fill in for him. Who is it? Is it Tyler McGill? Is it Christian Scott? Is it Joey Lucchese? I don't know. I like those three options. I think Tyler McGill is going to get that nod. He is right now actually doing pretty well. He's already got 2 strikeouts. Another great inning of work out of Tyler McGill. Again, it's only spring training, but he already struck out 2 batters in the first inning against the Yankees. So that's good job for McGill. But outside of McGill, I do think the Mets do have other options, and I think Joey Lucchese is one of the more underrated options. But we'll be talking about him in just a bit. Let's focus on Christian Scott first. Christian Scott, I think, is the most exciting option because we've never seen him. And he would be a rookie, 24-year-old guy, came up in the Mets system, 5th-round draft pick by the Mets a few years back. And in the Double-A last year, after he got the call, 2.47 ERA. So that's pretty good. And 12 starts. Not a lot of starts, obviously, not a full season worth of starts, but the 2.47 ERA in Double-A, that's intriguing. Triple-A, he's going to be starting there this year, but we all know Double-A pitching-wise is better than Triple-A. So him starting the year in Triple-A gives you the sense that he might get that call. And the Mets, they just released their prospect rankings. His ADA went from 2025 to 2024. So keep an eye out on that. I think Christian Scott does have a real opportunity to take that final rotation spot, whether it's at the start of the season or whether it's Tyler McGill or Joey Lucchese who get it and they struggle early on. I think Christian Scott has a real shot at coming up to the Mets big league team early on in 2024, especially because he's starting the year in AAA. And we all know AA is where pitchers, they actually have like higher competitiveness in AA. AAA is for the pitchers that are right at the end. You know, you're going to spend a few weeks there and you're going to get that call. So it's going to be exciting if Christian Scott does get that call up and he does take that rotation spot. I think it's the most unlikely option, but I threw it in there because I think it is on the table considering what has been coming out with the news in the prospect world for the Mets. So keep an eye out for Christian Scott. I think it'd be an intriguing option. In 40 career minor league starts, he's posted 3.31 ERA. He struck out 185 batters. So 40 starts, 185 strikeouts. That's pretty good. He does touch up. He has four-seam fastball, touches around 97 miles per hour. And he's also got a pretty good changeup as well. So I think, he's got good stuff. He's got major league stuff, and I'd love to see him actually in the majors. So another guy outside of Tyler McGill, obviously McGill's probably the best option to take that spot. But an underrated option and a likely option too is Joey Lucchese. In 9 starts last year, only 9 starts, 2.89 ERA with the Mets. So 4-0 record as well. So he didn't get a loss on his resume with the Mets last year in 2023. So Lucchese, left-hander, we do need a lefty in that rotation, obviously, outside of Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea also looks so different with his haircut and the shaved beard, but that's a topic for another day. Lucchese, I like that option. I think he could be a good spot starter here and there. I think he should start the year at least in the bullpen at the very least. But, yeah, Lucchese starting, why not? I mean, the 2.98 ERA, not 2.98, 2.89 ERA in those 9 starts last year with the Mets. Why not? Was it a fluke? Who knows? But here's the weird thing that I was doing some research on Lucchese. In 2021, Lucchese threw his cutter 3.3% of the time, and he wasn't very good before 2023. So he relied heavily on his sinker. He relied heavily on his curveball. But in 2023, Lucchese obviously put up his best year. He threw his sinker 22.8% of the time. And then he used that curve. Jesus, I got coffee stuck in my throat. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. But back to Joey Lucchese. Jesus. But anyways, before 2023, Lucchese was a very predictable pitcher. You know, he relied heavily on that sinker and that curveball. And then, obviously, 22.8% of the time in 2023, he used that sinker. So he used it a lot less. And then, 22.8% of the time he threw that cutter. So a big jump in the cutter from 2022 to 2023. So he's throwing the cutter more. He's throwing the curve and the sinker less. So maybe this guy's just becoming a little bit more unpredictable. He's utilizing his arsenal a little bit more. And we all know David Stearns, he's bringing over this so-called pitching lab from the Milwaukee Brewers organization. That's why the Mets gave him all this money to be the president of baseball operations, because he knows everything about pitching. So if Joey Lucchesi is starting to become a better pitcher, hopefully Stearns can make him become an even better pitcher. If he relied, obviously he was a heavily relier on those two pitches, the curve and the sinker, using them a lot less, introducing that cutter a lot more. If he can throw it even more, maybe Lucchesi is finding something that he's never had. Maybe he can do something for the Mets, at least for a little bit. Maybe whether it's out of the bullpen, whether it's starting for Senga for the time being that he's out, the Mets got to use Lucchesi, because that 2.89 ERA in 9 starts, I don't think it was a fluke. I just don't. I think he could be a good pitcher for the Mets. Like I said, whether it's out of the pen or in the starting rotation, Lucchesi needs to be on the big league roster. And lastly, Tyler McGill pitching right now. 2 strikeouts in the first inning. Back in 2022, when he was the Mets opening day starter, he came out firing. In the month of April, he had a 1.93 ERA, 4-0 record. But after April, he sucked. So Tyler McGill needs to put it up on a consistent basis. If he does that, he could be a big league pitcher. But he's getting I think it's his last opportunity to prove that he could be a big league pitcher. I think he's going to get that opportunity to get that final rotation spot with the Mets in place of Senga. So I think it's going to be McGill's job, and I think it's McGill's job to lose. Not necessarily to gain, but I think it's his job to lose. So I'm going to be watching Tyler McGill a lot to start the year. I think he has the potential to be a full-time starter for the Mets. But then again, we've all said that before. He needs to stay consistent. So he's got an opportunity again, and now he needs to take advantage of it, because let's be real, even when Senga does come back, it could be an ideal option to go to a 6-man rotation. So McGill could find his way to stay in that rotation even if Senga comes back. So we'll see who does it, whether it's Christian Scott, whether it's Joey Lucchesi, whether it's Tyler McGill. The Mets need to find that final 5th starter. I want it to be Christian Scott. I think he's got what it takes to be a big league pitcher. I want to see them give a young guy a chance. We're talking about all these young guys on the offensive end, but what about the young guys on the pitching end? So I think Christian Scott's a guy we got to keep an eye on, but I think Tyler McGill, like I said, it's his job to lose. And so far, he's not trying to lose it. 2 strikeouts in those in that first inning, just 14 innings against the Yanks in the spring training start right now. But that's all I got. We're going to the Garden to watch potentially Jalen Brunson. Like I said, I want to watch Brunson, but at the same time, it might be a good idea to rest him. So that's all it is on to the James Nolan podcast today. Probably going to be going live next week or towards the end of this week. But that's all I got for you today. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you already haven't. Deuces.